Once upon a time, in a land blanketed by endless winters and shimmering frost, where the northern lights painted the skies in shades of emerald and violet, there existed a story whispered by every hearth and sung by every wind, the story of a queen whose heart was colder than ice itself, and of two children whose love and courage melted the cruelest chill the world had ever known. But before we step into this frozen world of mirrors, magic, and eternal snow, take a moment to make sure you don't miss the rest of our enchanting tales. Subscribe now to What English Fairy Tales, tap the bell icon, and stay with us till the very end, because this story holds not only the power of friendship but the secret to a heart that can thaw even the deepest winter. And now, let's begin. There was once a wicked sorcerer, a master of dark tricks and cruel laughter, who created a mirror unlike any other. This mirror did not show beauty or truth. It twisted every reflection into something ugly and distorted. The fairest faces appeared monstrous, the kindest hearts seemed cruel, and every good thing in the world looked foul and hateful in its reflection. The sorcerer delighted in this creation and carried it across lands with his mischievous goblin followers, laughing as people looked into it and despised themselves and each other. One day, in their wild joy, the goblins flew up high, higher and higher toward heaven itself, wanting to mock the angels by showing them their own hideous reflections. But the mirror slipped from their hands and shattered into billions of tiny splinters that scattered across the earth. Some pieces were smaller than grains of sand, but each shard carried the same dark magic. Anyone who got one in their eye would see only the ugly side of everything, and anyone who got one in their heart would have their heart turned to ice. Far away, in a cozy little town surrounded by blooming gardens and the gentle murmur of life, lived two children, Gerda and Kay. They were not brother and sister by blood, but their souls were so closely bound that they might as well have been twins. They lived next door to each other, their windows facing the same narrow alley lined with roses that climbed the walls like a living curtain of color and fragrance. In summer, they would sit on a wooden bench between their houses, tending their rose bushes together, laughing, whispering secrets, and watching the bees hum lazily under the sun. Their grandmothers often smiled from their windows, listening to their chatter and recalling the innocence of youth. Gerda was pure-hearted, warm, and bright as morning sunlight, while Kay was curious, clever, and sometimes mischievous, his blue eyes gleaming with dreams and daring. The two were inseparable until the day the mirror's curse found them. It was a winter evening when snowflakes began to drift down gently from the gray sky, and children in the streets were catching them on their mittens and laughing at the beauty of the first snow. Gerda and Kay sat at the window, drawing frost flowers on the glass with their warm breaths. "Look, Gerda," Kay said, pointing at the falling snow. "Each flake is different, yet all so perfect." Gerda nodded, smiling. "That's how people are, too." But before she could finish her thought, Kay suddenly cried out, clutching his face. "Ah, my eye, it burns!" He rubbed it hard, but the pain only deepened. A shard from the wicked mirror had entered his eye. At the same moment, another tiny fragment found its way into his heart, which began to grow cold, hard, and cruel without him even knowing it. Gerda gasped and tried to comfort him, but he pushed her hand away with an anger that seemed strange and unfamiliar. "Stop fussing, Gerda, I'm fine," he snapped, and though she didn't understand it, that was the first moment the curse took hold. From that day on, Kay began to change. The gentle laughter that once filled the alley was replaced by mocking words and cruel games. He teased Gerda for being childish, mocked their rose garden, and even laughed at stories of angels his grandmother used to tell. "There are no angels," he said coldly one evening, "only snow and stars, cold and far away." The once warm-hearted boy grew sharp and distant. Gerda would cry in her room, wondering what she had done wrong, but still she loved him, believing somewhere deep down her friend was still there, hidden behind the frost that now clouded his heart. Then, one icy morning, when the world outside looked like a silver dream and the river was frozen over like glass, Kay took his little sled and went to the town square to play. There were older boys there, and they tied their sleds behind the big sleighs of strangers, letting themselves be pulled along through the snow. Laughing at the thrill, Kay tied his sled behind the largest sleigh of all, one driven by a tall woman dressed all in white, her cloak shimmering with frost, her eyes shining like frozen stars. She turned to look at him, and her smile was both beautiful and terrifying. It was the Snow Queen. Without a word, she cracked her whip, and her sleigh flew faster and faster through the streets, out of the town, and into the swirling white wilderness beyond. Kay didn't realize what had happened until the rooftops disappeared behind them and the snow whirled so thickly that he could see nothing at all. "Wait, let me go," he cried, but the Snow Queen only laughed softly, and her laughter was like the sound of icicles breaking in the wind. "Are you cold?" she asked. leaning close. "No," he said, though his breath froze in the air. She kissed his forehead, and it burned like frostbite. "Now you will feel no cold," she whispered, and kissed him again on the heart. "Now your heart will never ache again." The world went still. Kay felt no fear, no love, no pain, only silence. His eyes were wide and bright, but empty. The Snow Queen wrapped him in her cloak, and they soared away across forests and mountains, over frozen seas, until they vanished into the endless white. Back in the little town, Gerda waited. Hours passed, then days, and when Kay didn't return, the town searched the river, believing he had drowned. Gerda refused to believe it. She prayed, she cried, she waited at the window for weeks. Then one morning, when spring had begun to melt the snow, she whispered to herself, "He's not dead, I will find him." She put on her red shoes, kissed her grandmother goodbye, and stepped into the world beyond the garden gate, her heart trembling with courage and love. Her first stop was the river, where she offered her new shoes as a gift. Hoping it would carry her to Kay, she placed them gently on the water, saying, "If you have taken my friend, please bring me to him." But the river, misunderstanding her innocent wish, carried both shoes away and didn't return them. Gerda wept, thinking the river was angry, and climbed into a little boat that had drifted loose from its mooring. Before she knew it, the current swept her away. The boat floated past meadows filled with spring flowers, beneath willows that bent low to kiss the water. The sun shone warmly on her face, and for the first time in months, she smiled, but then she realized she couldn't steer or return. The river carried her onward, away from home. Eventually, the boat drifted toward a strange little cottage covered in ivy and strange painted flowers. An old woman with a wide-brimmed hat stood in the garden, leaning on her staff. She looked kind but had eyes that glimmered with magic. "Poor child," said the old woman, drawing the boat close with her cane. Come, you must be tired." Gerda climbed out, grateful and weary, and the woman gave her cherries and warm milk. "What are you doing all alone, my dear?" the woman asked. "I'm looking for my friend Kay," Gerda said softly. "He disappeared last winter." The old woman smiled, but behind her smile was a hint of sadness. "Stay here, little one. You'll forget your troubles in my garden." She stroked Gerda's hair gently, and with each stroke, a strange drowsiness came over the girl. The old woman was not evil, but she was lonely. She didn't want Gerda to leave, so she took her magic comb and brushed Gerda's hair until the memories of Kay began to fade. Then she waved her cane, and all the roses in her garden, except one bush hidden behind the house, vanished beneath the earth, so that nothing would remind the girl of her lost friend. For many days, Gerda stayed in the enchanted garden, playing among the endless summer flowers that never wilted, singing with the birds, and forgetting why her heart had once been heavy. But one evening, while she sat beneath a lilac tree, she saw a single rose bloom in the corner of the garden. It stirred something deep within her, something warm and aching. "Roses," she whispered. "Kay and I had roses by our windows." And suddenly, her memories returned in a rush: the frost, the sled, the Snow Queen. "Oh, how could I forget him?" she cried, and the tears she shed fell upon the ground, where the buried roses began to rise again, blooming in every color. The old woman, seeing her spell broken, sighed deeply and let her go, for even magic cannot bind a heart filled with love. Gerda thanked her and stepped once more into the world beyond the gate. Walking along the road with renewed strength, she asked every bird, every flower, and every passing soul if they had seen her friend Kay, but none had. One day, she met a crow sitting on a stone wall, tilting its head curiously. "Caw, caw, why are you crying, little girl?" it asked. Gerda told her story, and the crow thought for a moment. "I might know something," it said. "There's a princess in a faraway castle who just married a clever young boy, clever as you described your Kay to be. Perhaps it's him." Gerda's eyes lit up. "Please take me to the castle," the crow agreed, and together they traveled through forests and fields until they reached the great golden gates of the palace. It was magnificent, towers gleaming in the sun, fountains frozen in mid-splash, and guards in silver armor. The crow knew a way inside and led Gerda through secret corridors until they came to the royal bedchamber. There, on a golden bed, slept a young prince and princess, but when Gerda saw the boy's face, her heart sank. It was not Kay. Still, the prince and princess, upon hearing her story, were moved to tears. "You are brave and good," said the princess. "You shall not go on foot any longer." They gave her warm clothes, a golden carriage, and a pair of fine horses to continue her journey. Gerda thanked them deeply and rode away, her hope rekindled. But the world beyond the castle was wild and cold. In the thick forests, the snow began to fall again, and one night, as the carriage passed through a dark glade, a band of robbers attacked. The coachman was thrown down, and Gerda was dragged from the carriage by a rough-looking woman and her daughter. The robbers stole everything, but when the little robber girl saw Gerda's tearful face, she laughed. "Don't be afraid, I won't kill you, you'll stay with me." The robber girl was fierce but strangely kind. She kept wild doves, pigeons, and a reindeer in her hut, and though she could be cruel to others, she took a liking to Gerda. One night, while they sat by the fire, the doves whispered to Gerda, "We've seen Kay." The Snow Queen carried him in her sleigh far, far to the north, where her palace lies in the middle of the icy Lapland. Gerda's heart leapt. "Please tell me how to get there," she begged. The reindeer, hearing this, lifted its great head. "I was born there," he said. "I know the way. If they will set me free, I can take you." The little robber girl frowned but, seeing the tears in Gerda's eyes, finally agreed. "Fine," she said, untying the reindeer's rope. "Go, but promise you won't forget me." "Never," Gerda said. The next morning, before the robbers woke, Gerda climbed onto the reindeer's back, and together they galloped into the white dawn, the forest echoing behind them with the sound of hooves and wind. 4 days and nights they traveled northward, over frozen rivers, through snowfields and icy winds that bit at Gerda's cheeks until they were red as roses. Yet she did not complain. She thought only of Kay. They reached Lapland at last, where the snow glittered like diamonds, and the sky danced with northern lights. The reindeer stopped before a tiny hut buried in snow, where an old Lapp woman lived. She took them in, gave them shelter, and listened as Gerda told her story. "You have a pure heart, child," said the Lapp woman, "but you cannot fight the Snow Queen with strength alone. Only love can melt the ice in his heart." She wrote a message on a dried fish and told the reindeer to carry it farther north to a wise woman in Finland, who would know what to do. They traveled on again through howling storms until they reached another hut, smaller, colder, and lonelier than the first. The Finnish woman read the message and smiled. "I cannot give her more power than she already has," she said softly. "Her love is her strength." Then she whispered to the reindeer, "Take her to the Snow Queen's palace. The rest is up to her."